First Samuel chapter 13. Saul was 30 years old when he began to reign. He reigned over Israel for 40 years. Saul selected 3,000 men from Israel. 2,000 were with Saul at Michmash and in the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah in the territory of Benjamin. He sent the rest of the people back to their homes. Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost at Gibeah, and the Philistines heard about it. Then Saul sounded the ram's horn throughout the whole land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." All Israel heard the news. Saul has attacked a Philistine outpost, and now Israel is stinking in the nostrils of the Philistines. So the people were summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines assembled to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and an army as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They went up and camped at Michmash, east of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble and their army was hard pressed, they hid in caves and thickets, among rocks and in holes and cisterns. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan into the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul remained at Gilgal, and all the people with him were shaken with fear. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings." And Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to greet him. "What have you done?" asked Samuel. Saul replied, "When I saw that the men were scattering, and that you did not come at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering." "You have acted foolishly," Samuel said. "You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, you would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." Then Samuel left Gilgal and went up to Gibeah in Benjamin. Saul counted the people who were with him. There were about 600 men. Saul, his son Jonathan, and the people with them stayed in Gibeah of Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. Raiding parties went out from the Philistine camp in three directions. One division turned toward Ophrah in the land of Shual, another turned toward Beth Horon, another turned toward the border overlooking the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. No blacksmith could be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines had said, "Otherwise the Hebrews will make swords or spears." So all Israel had to go down to the Philistines to sharpen their plowshares, mattocks, axes, and sickles. The price was a pim for sharpening plowshares and mattocks, and a third of a shekel for sharpening forks and axes and for repointing ox goads. So on the day of the battle, not a sword or spear was found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had them. First Samuel chapter 14. A garrison of the Philistines had gone out to the pass at Michmash. Then one day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to his armor-bearer, "Come on, let's go over to the Philistine garrison that is opposite us." But he did not let his father know. Now Saul was sitting under a pomegranate tree in Migron, on the outskirts of Gibeah. The army that was with him numbered about 600 men. Now Ahijah was carrying an ephod. He was the son of Ahitub, who was the brother of Ichabod, and the son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord in Shiloh. The army was unaware that Jonathan had left. Now there was a steep cliff on each side of the pass through which Jonathan intended to go to reach the Philistine garrison. One cliff was named Bozez, the other Seneh. The cliff to the north was closer to Michmash, the one to the south closer to Gibeah. Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come on, let's go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will intervene for us. Nothing can prevent the Lord from delivering, whether by many or by a few." His armor-bearer said to him, "Do everything that is on your mind. Do as you're inclined. I am with you all the way." Jonathan replied, "All right, we'll go over to these men and fight them. If they say to us, 'Stay put until we approach you,' we'll stay right there and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up against us,' we will go up. For in that case, the Lord has given them into our hand. It will be a sign to us." When they made themselves known to the Philistine garrison, the Philistines said, "Look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes in which they hid themselves." Then the men of the garrison said to Jonathan and his armor-bearer, "Come up to us so we can teach you a thing or two." Then Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come up behind me, for the Lord has given them into the hand of Israel." Jonathan crawled up on his hands and feet, with his armor-bearer following behind him. Jonathan struck down the Philistines, while his armor-bearer came along behind him and killed them. In his initial skirmish, Jonathan and his armor-bearer struck down about 20 men in an area that measured half an acre. Then fear overwhelmed those who were in the camp, those who were in the field, and all the army in the garrison, and the raiding bands. They trembled and the ground shook. This fear was caused by God. Saul's watchmen at Gibeah in the territory of Benjamin looked on as the crowd of soldiers seemed to melt away, first in one direction and then in another. So Saul said to the army that was with him, "Muster the troops and see who is no longer with us." When they mustered the troops, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. So Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring near the ephod," for he was at the time wearing the ephod in the front of the Israelites. While Saul spoke to the priests, the panic in the Philistines' camp was becoming greater and greater. So Saul said to the priests, "Withdraw your hand." Saul and all the army assembled and marched into battle, where they found the Philistines in total panic, killing one another with their swords. The Hebrews who had gone earlier over to the Philistine side joined the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the Israelites who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines had fled, they too pursued them into battle. So the Lord delivered Israel that day, and the battle shifted over to Beth-aven. Now the men of Israel were hard pressed that day, for Saul had made the army agree to this oath: "Cursed be the man who eats food before evening. I will get my vengeance on my enemies." So no one in the army ate anything. Now the whole army entered the forest, and there was honey on the ground. When the army entered the forest, they saw the honey flowing, but no one ate any of it, for the army was afraid of the oath. But Jonathan had not heard about the oath his father had made the army take. He extended the end of his staff that was in his hand and dipped it into the honeycomb. He ate it. His eyes gleamed. Then someone from the army informed him, "Your father put the army under a strict oath, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.' That is why the army is tired." Then Jonathan said, "My father has caused trouble for the land. See how my eyes gleamed when I tasted just a little of this honey? Certainly, if the army had eaten some of the enemy's provisions that they came across today, would not the slaughter of the Philistines have been even greater?" On that day the army struck down the Philistines from Michmash to Aijalon, and they became very tired. So the army rushed greedily on to plunder, confiscating sheep, cattle, and cows. They slaughtered them right on the ground, and the army ate them, blood and all. Now it was reported to Saul, "Look, the army is sinning against the Lord by eating even the blood." He said, "All of you have broken the covenant. Roll a large stone over here to me. Then Saul said, Scatter out among the army and say to them, Each of you bring to me your ox and sheep and slaughter them in this spot and eat. But don't sin against the Lord by eating the blood. So that night each one brought his ox and slaughtered it there. Then Saul built an altar for the Lord. It was the first time he had built an altar for the Lord. Saul said, Let's go down after the Philistines that night. We will rout them until the break of day. We won't leave any of them alive. They replied, Do whatever seems best to you. But the priest said, Let's approach God here. So Saul asked God, Shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he did not answer him that day. Then Saul said, All you leaders of the army, come here. Find out how this sin occurred today. For as surely as the Lord, the deliverer of Israel, lives, even if it turns out to be my own son Jonathan, he will certainly die. But no one from the army said anything. Then he said to all Israel, You will be on one side, and I and my son Jonathan will be on the other side. The army replied to Saul, Do whatever you think is best. Then Saul said, O Lord, God of Israel, if this sin has been committed by me or by my son Jonathan, then, O Lord, God of Israel, respond with Urim. But if this sin has been committed by your people Israel, respond with Thummim. Then Jonathan and Saul were indicated by lot, while the army was exonerated. Then Saul said, Cast the lot between me and my son Jonathan. Jonathan was indicated by lot. So Saul said to Jonathan, Tell me, what have you done? Jonathan told him, I used the end of the staff that was in my hand to taste a little of the honey. I must die. Saul said, God will punish me severely if Jonathan doesn't die. But the army said to Saul, Should Jonathan, who won this great victory in Israel, die? May it never be. As surely as the Lord lives, not a single hair of his head will fall to the ground, for it is with the help of God that he has acted today. So the army rescued Jonathan from death. Then Saul stopped chasing the Philistines, and the Philistines went back home. After Saul had secured his royal position over Israel, he fought against all their enemies on all sides, the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, the kings of Zobah, and the Philistines. In every direction that he turned, he was victorious. He fought bravely, striking down the Amalekites and delivering Israel from the hand of its enemies. The sons of Saul were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua. He had two daughters. The older one was named Merab, and the younger, Michal. The name of Saul's wife was Anihuam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the general in command of his army was Abner, son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. There was a fierce war with the Philistines all the days of Saul. So whenever Saul saw anyone who was a warrior or a brave individual, he would conscript him.